So welcome everyone. Today is the winter solstice. It's already happened. It's about 6:45 a.m. on Monday morning, December 21st. And last night, several of you guys were able to join us for 108 Sun Salutations. And I thought this morning I was going to do a little bit of recovery work and thought I'd share that with you in case you'd like to join me. And of course, anyone else, even if you didn't do the 108, you might find these helpful sometimes. So it's kind of a mix of restorative and yin. We won't be full restorative. We'll do some poses that aren't fully supported. But I'm just going to kind of mix it up and make it sort of a combo. So you will, I would advise having some props. A strap would be really great. And again, if you don't have a yoga strap, you can use a belt, you could use a t-shirt, you could use a towel, and then a blanket, meaning a yoga blanket, or some thick beach towels, and a couple of blocks. Now you can make do with what you've got at home. If you've got pillows or something like that, that works too. And I thought we'd start in actually supported Supta Baddha Konasana with a few variations that I'll show you, and you're welcome to get them set up. So I'm going to set myself up. And also, because this is a video, you can always pause the video and hold the poses for longer than what I hold them. So that's the beauty of video. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to move over to my mat and make sure I'm still in the picture. Yep. So the first one is like a supported back bend or supported Supta Baddha Konasana. And for this one, we're going to use, you can feel free to use a blanket that's like folded like this. So it's, about that big when it's on your mat. And I'll show you this version, or if you'd like a little more lift, you can use blocks and then have your strap handy. And for your strap, for today's class, we'll use this strap made into a loop. So go ahead and loop your strap so that you're ready for that. So if you'd like the sort of less intense back bendy version, you're going to use the blanket or the towel, and the top of the towel will be at the bottom of your shoulder blades. So you'll kind of scoot yourself up so you can see this is just a really mild back bend. And, maybe this is good for you. You don't need to do more. You can stay right here. If you'd like it a little higher, that's where the blocks can come in, and you'll set the blocks up essentially like the blanket. So the one block, it'll be like at the top of your shoulder blades, and then the other block can be for your head, and you can see how I'm much more arched here. And you can kind of reposition this block. At the bottom, the top of the block is like where my bra strap would be. Just see how that feels, and kind of nestle yourself in until you find that moment. So those are two options for the upper body. And then for the lower body, again, you can just have your legs spread out. You could have your legs feet wide and your knees knocking in. That'll give you a nice stretch in the outer thighs. But if you'd like to do the Supta Baddha Konasana, you'll take your strap, you'll loop it over your head until it comes around your waist, and then kind of just position the loop or whatever so that it's near you. Because you might need to adjust it. And then you're going to scoop one foot in and scoop the other foot in. So now my ankles are in the strap like that. And I'm going to go ahead and lie back. I'm actually going to use the blanket. You can feel free to use the blocks. And you're going to get set up here. And it's nice to have the smooth edge of the blanket where your shoulder blades are going to be. So get yourself set up here. You lie back, the top of the blanket, the bottom of the shoulder blades, and then you let your knees come open. Now, you can always use, since we're having the the thing that tightens the strap. If you want it tighter, you can pull it tighter. You can also, if you haven't used your blocks or you have a couple extras, you can come into a little more, even more support and put the blocks underneath your knees. And then you sort of just settle in here. Now your arms can be out to the side, like 45 degrees. One hand on your belly, one hand on your heart. You can have your arms in cactus. You can even have your arms overhead if that feels good. So find a place that you can settle. And we'll stay here for about a minute. Like I said, you can always stay longer. Just pause the video and set your timer. This is a really nice opening, passive opening pose. We're about halfway through, so sometimes you may find as you're in these poses and you start to open, you may, like I'm going to just tip my blocks down a notch, or you can loosen the strap, or any way that maybe even change the position of your arms, if that would feel good. So we'll begin to come out of the pose, fluttering your eyes open if they're closed. And if your knees are wide, go ahead and feel free to use your hands to draw your knees together. And then you're going to just kind of pull one ankle up closer so you can unloop yourself from the strap any way that you can. Roll over onto your side and just pause here for a moment before we sit up. And then using both hands, go ahead and push yourself up to a seated position. And if you've got the strap, taking it off. And so we'll come into some seated hip openers. Again, feeling free to be nice and gentle. So to start with, we're going to actually start seated on our blankets. Again, if you've got a blanket or a block. And we'll start actually in just a simple cross-legged pose, which, believe it or not, is kind of a hip opener. Those of us with tight hips, you already know that. And again, these blocks are handy. Like if your knees are way up here and it's uncomfortable, you just put the blocks under there, or you can even, like roll up a towel, something if you'd like some support. Otherwise, kind of scooch the flesh away so you can find yourself rooted in Sukhasana. Let the shoulders release away from the ears. We'll also use this time for a little shoulder and neck stretch. I found my shoulders were really kind of tight in my neck. So the first one, we're just going to do a simple twist. So taking the left hand behind and the right hand over to the left knee. Inhale and lift. And then find the twist a little bit more from the low belly. And so again, in these like kind of recovery, restorative, and yin poses, the idea is not to do more. It's actually to do a little less. And we'll just hold it longer. And we allow then the body to sort of relax into that new position, that new architecture that you've created. And certainly if you want to go deeper, if you feel like I really need a big twist, of course, you always can feel free to do that. But I'll just offer taking it back a notch. Take an inhale. We're going to come like halfway untwisted. So you're kind of aimed out over your left knee. And just begin to walk your hands forward. And again, The block could be cool if getting your hands to the floor doesn't really work. And then inhale, and then really try to press this right hip and knee away. And then exhale, and keeping the back kind of long, you can just let your head drop. And maybe your forehead even comes to a block. But it doesn't have to. Or, sometimes if it's not all the way there, put the block on your knee, stack your blocks. Any way that lets you kind of release a little more into this posture. So you're kind of at a stretch over the left knee. Inhaling and exhaling. For me, I feel this really deep stretch along the right hip, outer hip area and glute. Might also feel it in your whole right side. And then we'll just start to walk on out of the pose, just slowly come up out of the pose. That's one thing, as we hold these poses longer, we want to really come out of them slowly. And we're going to hug ourselves. So take your right hand to your right shoulder or left shoulder, and your left hand to your right shoulder. And then as you give yourself a hug, go ahead and roll back. Exhaling. And then inhaling and come on up. And you can stay like this. You can take eagle arms, a little more of a shoulder and arm stretch. Elbows are about at shoulder height. And then I'm going to draw my shoulders down away from my ears. Try to soften your face. And then maybe even begin to draw your fingertips more towards the front. So I'm kind of opening my elbows. Still drawing the shoulders away from the ears. Try to keep the elbows at shoulder height. Inhaling and then exhale and just release it. And let's go ahead and switch the cross of our legs. And we'll take the second side. So the right hand will come behind, the left hand comes to the left knee. We'll inhale, find a long spine, and then exhale and just find a twist. Again, softness in your face and jaw. Softness in your gaze. Taking another inhale, we'll again unwind partway. And just kind of walk your hands out over that right knee and pressing the left knee away. And again, you can, maybe position the block so that the forehead can rest. But try to do that after you've kind of found the length in your body. Because sometimes if we draw the block in too soon, we're kind of scrunched up. So find the length that's going to work for you this morning, and then position the block. And then again, keep pressing that left hip away and left knee away. And again, we'll just slowly walk ourselves back up. And we'll take the wrap. So right opposite hand to opposite shoulder, and just make sure you're crossed the other way. So now my left elbow is underneath my right. And then exhale, find the hug. Inhale, come on up. Go ahead and find eagle arms if you like. Something's happening here. Okay, eagle arms, elbows are crossed. Draw the shoulders again away from the ears. Elbows are at shoulder height. And then maybe you begin to open your elbows a little bit. Exhaling, release the pose. Let's just take our hands out to the side, and we'll drop the left ear to the left shoulder. Keep the heart lifted. You can stay right here. You can hover this right heel of your hand off the floor. You can even take your left hand and just rest it on your ear. But any of these, see, this one is totally cool. Inhaling and exhaling. Keep really pressing the heel of the hand away. And then we'll slowly release it. So if you have your left hand on your ear, release that. Release that hand to the floor and come on up. Let's just go ahead and roll the shoulders a couple times, inhaling and exhaling. And then we'll take the second side. So we'll start by dropping the right ear to the right shoulder. Just try to stay square here and not like tip all the way over. So we kind of keep the stretch in the side. And then again, you can stay right here. See how hovering your hand feels. Maybe even see how resting your hand on your ear feels. And even though we're in these kind of relaxing poses, try to stay strong in your core. So lift up through your belly so that the back is supported. Let the knees be soft. And stay rooted if you can equally on both hips. And then if you have your hand on your head, go ahead and release it. Release your hand and come on up. This time, let's just roll the shoulders forward. And then from here, we'll come into wide-legged straddle, Upavista Konasana. So our legs are wide. And, your legs might not be super wide. They may be not that wide. Just do them where they go. And then from here, just position maybe the block inside to start with. Take an inhale here, sitting up tall, keeping your knees towards the ceiling and your toes towards the ceiling. And then you can start to kind of hinge at the hips and come forward. And that's where the block kind of comes in handy. It brings the floor a little closer, but you don't have to have the block. You could come down here. Inhaling and exhaling. And just go to the degree that works today, which might be a little different, especially if you did the 108. You just kind of let it be. And that was one of our songs. Inhaling and exhaling. And then if you'd like to make it a little more yin, you can grab the block. And again, just letting your head come to the block. Giving your head, your forehead, your neck, really that release. We're going to stay in this for about 10 more breaths. Slow breaths. So probably in total we'll be here about a minute. So again, you can always stay longer. You'll probably start to feel yourself open in this pose. Become a little more spacious. And just really gently and slowly begin to walk yourself out of the pose, letting your head kind of be the last thing up. Inhaling and exhaling. Let's take the hands behind and just pause here. And then we'll take a little side angle. So kind of doing some postures we didn't at all do in the 108 to help kind of restore us a little bit. So from here, I like to have the block on the inside of my leg, and then you'll just turn your forearm to the block. And, if you need it higher, you can take it higher. And then from here, my hips are still even on the floor. I'm just going to inhale the left arm up and over. And now if this is like too much on your shoulders, especially after yesterday, you can always have your hand on behind your head. You can even just have your hand on your hip. So whatever kind of works. And begin to kind of rotate from the low belly and look like underneath your armpit of your left arm. And again, you may find as we're in this pose, you may find you can go a little bit lower here. You can reach a little bit more towards the foot. But that's not super important. But if you're there and you can just grab your foot, feel free to. I just kind of like to use the block. It gives me a little more space in my right side. Taking another inhale and exhale. And then we'll all start to kind of curl over and start to face the leg. So you can frame your leg with both hands, or again, you can be up on your blocks. Inhale and then exhale and just begin to hinge at the hips and kind of come forward. So there's a little bit of a twist. Inhaling and exhaling. And then just begin to slowly come on back up. Bring your block with you. I'll take the other side. Let's just pause center. And then from here, we'll again position your forearm on the block facing up, kind of finding a little bit of length in this left side, so just noticing rather than collapsing in. Get a little bit of length there. And then we'll extend and open the right arm up. And then, or again, maybe it's at your head or maybe it's at your waist. And just begin to kind of spiral open from the low belly. So it's like the left side kind of draws open. Hopefully that feels good. Try to stay rooted in both hips. And again, as you're in the pose, you may find you get a little bit more spaciousness. And taking one more inhale. And then the exhale will all kind of just wind back over, facing, kind of framing the left leg with both hands up on your blocks or up on your fingertips. And then exhaling and just hinging a little bit. And just kind of allowing some openness to the whole back body, the inner thighs. And on the next inhale, just begin to walk slowly on up. Taking the outsides of your knees, using your hands, draw your knees together and just hug them in. Maybe give yourself a hug. And then we'll come back and can move the blanket away. Keep your blocks at the front of your mat. And let's just come into down dog. We did a lot of them, so we won't do a lot. And then we're going to come into puppy. So puppy, we have our knees on the floor, and it's like a down dog, but on the upper body, but then the head can find the floor. So the hips are more like right over the heels. Right over the knees, sorry. And then here, go ahead and press on up. And we'll take thread the needle. So positioning yourself in all fours, inhaling and opening the left arm up, and then exhale, draw the left arm underneath. You can position this right hand right next to your shoulder and kind of help find the left shoulder and side of the head on the floor. Again, maybe, finding yourself in a position where you really feel that opening through the back. You can stay right here. You can feel free to fingertip walk the arm in front. Or you might take this right hand up and over into a little bit of a bind. So you can either just place the palm of your hand on your low back, kind of opens this right shoulder a little bit,
or you can stay here, or you can take it all the way to a bind where I'm kind of grabbing the inner thigh. I kind of like this, so this is where I'm going to stay today. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Just kind of come out of it, pressing the right hand down and pushing into the right arm and just open up one more time to the left side. Okay, second side. Inhale and open. Exhale, find the thread, the needle. And then from here, you can stay right here. You can fingertip walk your hands forward, or take the palm of your left hand. Sometimes you got to reposition things if you don't fall over. Take the palm of your left hand to your low back. Draw open the left shoulder. You can even fingertip walk around and find the inner thigh. Gives you a little bit more opening. Whatever you like. And then begin to unwind the pose. Set the left hand down, push into the left arm, open it to the right. Set it on back down and go ahead and find, yes, finally child's pose. And again, if your forehead doesn't come to the floor, or it just might feel nice to have the block and give yourself a little more support, feel free to do that. We're going to take a few breaths here, really feeling the breath come into the whole back body, like the back ribs expand. And then slowly making your way back up to all fours. And again, just kind of keeping the blocks at the top of your mat. We'll move into Sphinx pose. So moving your knees back and coming down to your forearms, and then releasing your hips to the floor. And then maybe resetting. So the palms are going to be on the floor, the elbows are right under the shoulders, or maybe just a little bit in front. My feet are about hip distance apart. And just check that your legs are strong, pressing into the floor. And then for Sphinx, we're going to press away from the floor. Think less about lifting straight up and more about drawing your heart almost forward, or even pulling the mat back. Gaze is just forward. Having a nice opening now to the front body. Face is relaxed, jaws relaxed. Inhaling and exhaling. And then exhaling, release all the way down. Go ahead and let your elbows come to the outside. Cross your wrists and let your forehead come to your wrists. And just kind of shimmy your hips back and forth. And another chance to press back to child's. And if you're in the full-on child's pose, feel free to even fingertip walk your hands forward and come up to your fingertips and get another nice long stretch through the side body as the hips reach back towards the heels. And then coming up to all fours, we're going to do a rabbit pose. So this is a nice stretch for the neck, and you can just move into it as deeply as you'd like. So we'll start in all fours. You're going to kind of start to walk your hands, really draw up through the belly. Walk your hands kind of, see, I'm kind of moving into like the shape of a bunny. Walk your hands in towards your knees, and then you kind of start to bend your elbows. Look at how much I look like a bunny. And then the top of your head is going to actually come to the floor. Now I'm not like,
all my weight is not on my head. My weight is more in my arms and using my low belly to lift up. And then you can continue to walk back. And the full pose, you actually grab your heels and come into this little bunny. But you don't have to do the whole thing. You can stay right here. So be just kind of conscious of what kind of stretch you need in your neck today. And if your feet are together, you want to grab the bunny, tilt your little bunny tail up. You're going to keep a lot of lift through your low belly so there's not strain on your neck. And release the hands back down and then just slowly roll up. And it might feel kind of cool or weird for the top of your head. Because we usually are on the top of our head. Okay, so a little bit deeper hip openers. From all fours, step your right foot to the outside of your right hand, and then we'll come into a variation of lizard. And again, you can always come up on your blocks, but both hands are to the inside of your right knee. You can just stay right here for this version. And of course, you can go deeper. Again, you can be down on the hands. You can even be down on your forearms or on your forearms on the block. I'm just going to be up on my hands today. And you'll probably feel the sensation maybe in the inner thighs and maybe in the outer right hip, as well as the front of the left hip. And just notice the tendency in this pose is to let yourself kind of sink down. So we want to press away from the floor. So our shoulders are away from our ears, but you can let your head drop, which can feel kind of nice. Just so that you kind of notice if you let your head drop, does everything sag? Can you keep pressing away from the floor to let the head drop? Or just keep the gaze forward in case that doesn't work. And then again, as we're in this pose for a while, you might find you can release a little bit more through the back hip. So like you open that back hip, you kind of move the front knee forward a little bit. But more just, feel your body. Like I don't have the sense of, oh, I'm going to go move deeper. Just, oh, okay. Just if I let go a little bit, my body just sort of goes there. And begin to walk your hands back up. And we're going to frame the foot now and kind of toe heel. I'm going to face you guys. You're going to toe heel. So I was like this. Now I'm going to go this. I'm going to toe heel this foot around. Okay? And I'm going to come into pigeon. So for pigeon, as you guys know, if you tuck this front knee, it just kind of faces forward. The more that this front shin is parallel to the top of your mat, the deeper the pose will be. So you've toe heeled your foot around, your knee is either centered or off to the side, your back toes can uncurl, and then notice if what happens is you just sort of slosh over to the right. So this is where a block is cool, or a little blanket or a rolled up towel, just gotta scoot back a little, and then sitting up here. And then notice if you would like to come down to your forearms, again to the block. And even if you want to go all the way down, feel free to do that. So if there is any strain in your knee, back out of the pose a little bit. And if that doesn't help, come into that either reclining pigeon where you're on your back in that little figure four, or come back to lizard if that felt like it didn't strain your knee. Let your whole body kind of soften into this pose without like sloshing. So keeping the idea is that your hips, if I were behind you, I could level your hips. Your hips are level. Like they're not tipped to one side. just very slowly start to come up. Again, you can always just pause the video or stay as long as you want and come back into this. And then from here, we're just gonna draw the knees back together, back to all fours. Come into just a little cat-cow. And then lizard on this side. So I'm going to draw my left foot forward. Both hands are inside the left leg. And again, maybe being up on the blocks for a while. Keep pressing away from the floor with the hands. And feel free to give your neck a break if you want to drop your chin. Otherwise, keeping your gaze forward. Feeling the softness kind of move through your body. And inhaling, coming on back up. And this is where we're gonna frame the foot now and kind of toe heel this left foot all the way over. So it's kind of next to the right wrist. And from here you can move into pigeon, either if you want to keep your knee kind of your shin parallel, or I'm gonna scooch my knee more towards the top of the mat. That will decrease the intensity of the pose. Sliding a block under my left hip to keep my hips level. And then walking forward in whatever way. Maybe walking forward to you is here right now today. That's cool. Uncurling the back toes. You can't really see them. I think it's in the way. And then releasing forward as deeply as you'd like to go. And then we'll start to come out of the pose. Again, you can always stay longer, walking your hands up and then slowly inhaling as you push yourself up. And then coming back into that all fours position. Again, just for a couple cat-cows. Kind of resetting the spine. And walking the knees about halfway up the mat, crossing your feet at your ankles and rolling back to a seated position. Grabbing again your blocks and your strap. And we'll roll back to our backs. So you can feel free to, if you want a little core work, not use your hands, or you can hold one hand onto your leg and roll back. Either way, just coming on back to your knee, on back to your back. And then from here, we're going to use the strap for a little hamstring opening. I don't know about you guys, the sun salute always get my hams and my calves. So looping the strap around the big toe ball mound, like the not the arch of the foot, but up underneath the toes. And then let the upper body be really heavy and just draw the strap down, as much strap as you need. One little thing you can do even is kind of circle, kind of loop the strap, so if it's long enough,
So your hands are just like hanging, your arms are just like hanging against your leg. So you could stay right here, having the right knee straight, even if the leg is way down here, then you just use more of the strap. Let the collarbone stay broad, let there be like that softness in your jaw. And then you can also extend the left leg, and you'll feel that a little bit more deeply in the left leg, the hip, front of the hip. Keep flexing the right toes and just let the back of the right leg open. And then from here, there's an option here to add a little neck stretch. So you've got the loop on the strap. Move the belt, the buckle away. You might need to shorten. I'm going to need to shorten my strap a little bit. And what we're going to actually do, it's going to sound weird, but you're going to put your head in the loop. And you're going to loop the strap. Oops. You've got a ponytail, scooch it out of the way, behind the back of your neck. So you're kind of in traction here. So your leg and your neck are at odds. And this can feel really, really good. But make the strap as long or as short as you'd like. So the shorter it is, the more you're going to get a stretch, obviously. And the longer it is, you'll be more open. So you just kind of do whatever. Keep the foot flexed at the head. You kind of just let the head release into the strap. And then to come on out of it, go ahead and grab the strap. Hold on to it as you bend your knee. Unloop it from your head. Lower all the way down. And just extend everything long. Taking an inhale and exhale. And we'll move to the second side. So looping the strap around the left toe back, at the arch, toe ball mounds. And then I like to loop my hands, and that just sort of lets I made the strap shorter, so it's not as easy. Loop my hands and just let the upper body kind of rest down. And then maybe extending the right leg. And notice if you're like really straining the back of the leg to move it closer, just kind of let it, again, like the strap is there as a tool. And you just sort of let your leg be heavy. And then, but as the arms are heavy and the back of the leg starts to open, it might come closer. And then from here, we'll do that little head thing. So you'll loop your strap behind the back of your head. It's like kind of above your ears. You'll find a good spot.
And from here, as we come out of the pose, go ahead and grab the strap, bend your knee, loop it on out, come on down, take a long stretch. We'll do fish pose. We'll draw our hands alongside our body, point the toes really hard. Slide your hands underneath your hips, point the toes really hard, bend your elbows and sit up to look at your toes. And then start to like draw the hips, the pelvis tilts up, and the gaze tilts up, and then the crown of the head finds the back of the mat. Inhaling and exhaling. And then slowly releasing on down. Bring the knees into the chest. Giving yourself a little back massage. One direction. And then the other. And we'll just move into supported bridge. So setting yourself up for bridge pose. Rolling the feet about hip distance apart, rolling the shoulders underneath you. As you inhale and lift up, just slide the block under you at whatever level you'd like. And then reposition your shoulders and let your gaze come to the ceiling. For this nice passive opening, your hips and your chest. Then inhaling, go ahead and come up off the block and slowly lower down, one vertebrae at a time. Settle in, reset the spine, and go ahead and take the block between the knees. Take the arms out to the side like a T. Lift your hips and just shift them a couple inches to the right, and then tuck the knees in and drop them over to the left. So we'll take our twist. And we just want to draw that right shoulder down to the floor. Maybe the left hand rests on the outside of the right knee. And again, staying as long as you'd like, or drawing your gaze back to the ceiling, pressing the backs of the hands into the floor, lift the knees up, and then set them back down. Go ahead and lift and shift them a couple inches to the left. Draw the knees in and then drop them over to the right. Again, draw the left shoulder to the floor, maybe the right hand to the outside of the left knee. And drawing the gaze to the ceiling. Again, pressing both backs of the hands into the floor. Press on up. Go ahead and set the block down. Set your feet down so they're a little wider than the mat with your knees up, and we'll just windshield wiper our legs.
moving with some breath. So inhaling as you come to the center and exhaling as you twist. You can keep your gaze to the ceiling, or you can have your gaze kind of go opposite your knees. And when you're even on both sides, or it's not super important, come on back to the center. Toe heel your feet together and draw your knees in again. So a few options for the end of class, depending on how much time you have. You can feel free to move into Happy Baby and go into Shavasana. If you'd like to do legs up the wall, I'm going to go ahead and do that. You can do that with me if you like. You can also do, you can do Viparita Karani in the center of your mat. Put the block underneath you so you can end here with this inversion, which will feel really, really nice. It's simple and it's effective. If you don't have a wall handy, if you do have a wall handy and you want to move towards the wall, we'll do supported Viparita Karani against the wall. And you use your blanket or a bolster or even a block. You scooch the blanket about 5 inches or so from the wall. And you're going to just sit up on the blanket with your left hip towards the wall, or right, whatever you need. And then as you roll back, just kind of swing your legs up. And then you reposition as you need to this bolster if you have it, so that your sit muscles are like drooping between the blanket and the wall. And if your hamstrings are feeling really tight, you can scooch away from the wall. Just set this little blanket up so it feels nice, and let yourself kind of be here for a few breaths, or as long as you'd like. Again, you can always pause the video and stay here. You can cover your eyes, using this as your ending of your practice. I'm just going to stay in this pose for about a minute, and then I'll talk you through getting out of it. But if you'd like to stay longer, please do, especially if you have the time. Set the timer for 5 minutes or even 10. So I'll begin to come out of the pose. I'll just draw my feet down the wall so my knees are bent and my feet are pressing into the wall. I'm going to lift my hips up off the blanket and slide it on out so I can draw myself back so I'm flat on the floor. And then roll over to one side, whichever side doesn't have stuff on it. And then just pausing here. Inhaling and exhaling. And using both hands, just gently push myself up. Scooch away from the wall. And I'll come to a comfortable seat. And again, you can always feel free to find Shavasana or pausing here in any kind of silent meditation. Thank you for joining me for this recovery practice, we'll call it. Sort of a mix of yin and restorative. Namaste.